Well, if you say so, now let's talk about leadership.
Okay.
In Nigeria, everybody goes on about how we have a leadership problem. And every time when we talk about leadership, we look at politicians, we look at government agencies, and we assume that corporate organization, private owned companies will do it better. But some of them have leadership challenges. Why?
Well, I would say, if I think some of them is a big understatement. There is no way you don't have a leadership challenge, one or the other, whether small or big. It's the degree that varies. So if you go to some of the most advanced companies you have in the world, you would be surprised what you find when you get to their leadership. So, but the important factor to understand about leadership is that everyone is always learning on the job. We treat leaders as if they are these super robot human beings that are just there. They can't make mistakes. They would make mistakes, but
Okay.
they make it in different degrees. And a lot of them realize, they take a step back, and then they go forward again. So, but what differentiates a leader from every other person is actually that bird's eye view, that okay, even if I'm making a mistake, I still see the impact on everything. And then you just start filling in pieces. So you can't really say that there is no challenge of leadership anywhere. Private organizations have a lot, from controlling politics to controlling employee engagement to making sure everybody is equally treated. It's a lot of problems on the leadership side. So yeah, I don't think it's private organizations have it better scenario.
Well,
No.
we all assume they have it better.
I've never assumed that.
Okay, now let's talk also about finding. So this CEO is about to resign. Why is succeeding him always sometimes like a challenge? Why is grooming leaders to succeed people a challenge sometimes?
Well, you know, you can't really know a successor is good until he succeeds. So it's like I always say, if I have you as a staff, you're fantastic at what you do. Then you tell me there's another guy that is behind you. I could tell you, okay, yeah, that guy is there. But the question is, you're going, I know what I get, but I don't know what I'm going to get with the next guy. So it's like an investment. You want to invest in something. Do you know the return? No.
Okay.
So technically, it's a bit difficult to go to the point. So succession planning is always something that would be a problem. So, but what companies are now doing is to make sure that even if we don't know what we're going to get, at least we can pass as much knowledge as possible to the next person. Then you introduce mentors when they take over. Okay, how do you... So like for me, when I was leaving IHS Nigeria to IHS Rwanda, I was director of FP&A for 7 years in Nigeria. Okay. Then I went to Rwanda as CEO. Now, somebody took over after me, and I spent a lot of time saying to the person, okay, how do you need to do this. These are the sort of relationships you need to build. These are the areas you need to go. So that sort of mentorship helps a lot in succession, but it is never risk-free. It's impossible because you still have the ego. You still have a lot of things that comes in place. And then you have the unwillingness of the person that left to give that person the chance to do it. So it's a lot of variables to juggle around. So yeah, it's always going to be a problem.
Is it not possible that beyond, even though of course the leader makes the company, is it not possible to create a system such a way that regardless of the leader, we're able to develop whosoever might want to succeed the CEO or the MD when he's leaving? Is it possible to ingrain it even from when they come, when we take them in as trainees, so ingrain it just before they move up?
Well, yeah, it's possible, but the point is, if you want to test that theory, let's take a country like the US. Most of these guys that are leaders in the US, they go through schools, the best schools in the world, come through one of the best political systems in the world, but do they end up being the best leaders in the world? Not really. You really can't.
Mr. Amida, let's come to our own country.
No, but I'm trying to stay away from.
Why? Because I just also feel like Nigeria. So it's fantastic that you made that analysis. They go to the best schools. Yes, it doesn't always mean the same, but like in the schools, in learning, there's some. They're doing projects, they're doing like different things. But Nigeria is, like we say, man no man has brought this person in, whether he has the capabilities or not, whether he has I don't even really like to look at degrees, because I always say that degrees is not character at the end of the
day. I agree with you. And at the same time, I always feel it's a personal journey. What you do as a leader defines a lot about you in terms of what you've... Leadership is something that until you take it, you don't really know how much variables are in front of you. You could look at someone that you say, this guy is a leader, he's not so great at what he's doing. It's easy. I can tell you. When I became CEO, I forgave every CEO I've ever worked with in my life. Because there is a lot of work, a lot of things you don't normally see. And someone told me once and said, oh, maybe that's not something, oh, is that something you think you want to do? I said, that's the best experience in my life. I would do it anytime, any day, because it gives you so much. The pressure is huge. The government wants something, they call you. Your boss wants something from your holding company, they call you. Everyone that wants anything relating to that brand would call your name. So it's a really different ball game.
So how did you balance that?
Well, you need to find a lot of balancing everyday stuff. One, I like to distract myself a lot. I like to take myself away from work significantly. I play games. I go play games with my friends, go watch the game. Just do something that takes me away completely from everything. And I play football as much as possible. I do almost every sport that is available to do. But the aim of that is to ensure that I don't have any reason to pressure myself to the point where I can't function. And that's important, because you could really go hard on everything, and then next thing you find out, boom, you're taking it out on the staff, or taking it out on a peer or something. It's really hard to master. So I don't really believe, I believe systems work, but when people take roles, they decide what they do with it significantly. There are controls in place, but they still have a lot of role to play. So that you can't really rule that out, no matter what.
Okay, let's talk about you as a leader. So I'm glad you've talked about. So your leadership style, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, you're the one who has been a CEO here. I feel like there's some people that have there's an innate leadership style that they're born with. And then, along the line, as they begin to work and relate with other people and mentors, it changed. So tell us about yours. What's your leadership style and how has it evolved over the years?
Well, I think one thing that stayed constant all through me being in leadership is that if you want to lead people, you need to remove everything they can worry about outside of you. Now, what am I trying to say? I have staff that will say, if I have a staff and he's worried about taking his kid to school, he can't concentrate. So anything I tell him, he can't do. So for me, my priority anywhere is that my guys that I'm working with, they have to be fine. When I got to Rwanda, I promoted about 35 people who basically some of them have been on roles for 7 years. So it's been because the first thing I could do was to say, it's impossible to tell this guy, go do this for me, when he's worried about how he's going to pay his bills. So you need to understand that everyone has a goal. Everyone wants to send their kid to the best schools in the world. Everyone wants to eat at the best restaurant. So it's not just you. So if you can't make that, I'm not saying just increase salary, boom, and make everything crazy. But the moment I have a budget, this is my budget, this is what I can work with. It is now down to me to say, okay, how can I use this bucket in a way that makes sense to the company and at the same time to the people? So when I was in IHS Nigeria 7 years, and my team was one of the fastest growing teams.
Oh, wow.
I think I had more managers in my team than a lot of departments had in them. So it was basically, my aim was to say, how do I grow the people? Not just growing them because they're not working. So they can now worry about me because I demand performance. So if it's only me you're worried about, then I can take away the rest. Then at least it's fine. Then I can easily say it's balanced in a way. I'm not saying I'm the perfect leader. There will always be faults everywhere here and there. A staff once told me I should go back to school to learn management. It's fine. It's his view. But to me, it's the way I believe people should be led. Give them a reason to want to follow. Because followership is more of a sacrifice than leadership is. Leadership, yes, is mostly imposed. I won't say imposed is not the right word. It's mostly given. You need to have that opportunity to lead. But to follow is actually a default. So it requires you sacrificing your time to be able to help someone else get his goal up. Okay. So to me, I don't take that for granted at all. So people is extremely important in my leadership style. But every other thing is left to debate. People can tell me, oh, is this, is that. I don't know. But that is a constant.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll take a short break. Mr. Amida is still with us talking about leadership and leadership challenges in a corporate organization. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on One on One. I still have Aziz Amida with me, and we're talking about leadership and leadership challenges in corporate organizations. Okay, so you've talked about your leadership style. What will you consider as the critical success factors for a leader?
People. You can't do without it. It's we could. I always say if your worry is about targets, most likely you don't have the right people. If your worry is about a lot of things, people would make everything happen. But if you cannot sort that problem out, it's impossible to conceptualize any other problem, because you will spend your days dealing with, oh, maybe you're overpaying one person compared to the other guy. This guy is not happy. This lady here wants to be somewhere else. You spend a lot of time around. There'll be a lot of friction in the organization. So to me, having the right team that could work together, creating that environment that people could say when they wake up in the morning, they don't feel like they are under any pressure to come to work. I once had two staff who got into a very big conflict, and it lasted for a while. And I remember there was a time I was speaking with the manager. One was a manager, and they were like, one reports to the other. So they were, and I said to her, I said, the important factor for me is that at the end of this whole thing, at no point should this lady feel she doesn't want to come to work. So I'm not going to tell you how to run your team, but just know my concern is that she needs to be happy with the job. So if you feel this conflict makes her happy, it's fine. If you feel it doesn't make her happy, then get it resolved. So it's important to understand that those things they're salient, because one tiny problem can basically wreck the entire chain, because what you do affects what the next person does, and
True.
It goes on and on and on like that. So if one person is not functioning well, the whole team can't function.
I feel like I should ask you a follow-up questions to that. Like, how
Please
do you
go
ensure?
ahead.
Because, leadership, like you said, I really don't envy leaders, because leadership is a lot of work.
Yeah.
You're managing someone's not only personality, whatever self-confidence issues they have about themselves, how they were raised, and all of that. And you have to battle and balance that and ensure that you still get, your results at the end of the day, because...
Yeah. Because what has worked for me, because I think I can read people a lot. For me personally, I could almost tell how to deal with you in 2 minutes after talking to you. I could almost tell, okay, with this person you need to be extremely firm. With this person, be soft. With this person, I used to work in an environment where we shout a lot. And there was this lady that was working with me. I never shouted on her for 6 years.
Oh, wow. How did you do that?
It would be like, okay, how does it? But to me, that's her personality. She works better when you're able to
Explain to her.
okay, you know what, just take it easy. Go do this. Sometimes you get you get angry and you're like, oh wow, what's this? But I never really got into that position where I'm like, unlike some other people, and you're going hard at them. But then the other lady is like, she just comes to work and is like, okay, she comes and then you talk to her calmly. People say maybe it's the way she carries herself, but no, that's her personality. She works better when she's understood, when she's allowed to think. And the moment you put her under that sort of pressure, boom. It's we used to crack this joke about this friend of mine that we work in school together. We're in school, and when you go into an exam, and if that guy is thinking, and you call his name, he has failed.
Oh wow.
He would literally forget everything he wants to write. So everyone in the class will just say, in his exam, just let this guy be. Don't talk to him. Don't do anything. And it works. So your ability, discernment is important in leadership. So these things, they look so small, but they go a long way. People look at you and think, oh, it's just that guy that does it. But no, you're paying attention to all those things because they are extremely important to you being successful.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about employee behavior, especially in this era of great resignation.
Okay.
How should leaders, handle that? How should companies handle that now? Because it's almost like anybody, if you just resign, they're going into, I was reading a CNN report, and it was talking about how a lot of people, are resigning even from the jobs that are well paid and just, moving on. Was it the pandemic? I don't know. Tell us about it.
Well, it has two sides to it. I can't really confirm or say anything about the theory of the great resign, but the point I know is that people would always see things from two different angles. So there is the guys who see a different opportunity to go to. They would resign. They will go because human beings are rational. So it is impossible to see a high return and go for a lower one when all things are the same. So every time you look at them, if a man is making a decision, or a woman is making a decision, they are making it because they see a better opportunity in something else. So when this whole great resign, is a person resigning for something worse than what they had? I don't think so. So the same thing would apply. So, and it comes down to what I said earlier. If you can make people believe and have goals, and you can meet their goals on whatever they are doing, they would always feel that joy to come to work daily. But if it's the other way, if I'm stressed every time I come to work, and I know that I'm probably going to lose my life or something else if I don't pay attention, then I'll leave. So you might call it anything, but the real problem is that everyone leaving any opportunity is leaving to what they believe in their mind is a better one. Whether it turns out to be better is a different thing. But as of the time that decision is being made, that's the background.
All right, interesting. Thank you. Let's talk about work cultures. How do we create sustainable work cultures?
Culture. Culture is hard because you build culture from the little things. You build culture over time. You really can't. I've seen people do presentations around building culture, but I don't believe culture is something in Yoruba culture, they say if you want to greet an adult, you bow. If you're younger than someone, you give them a title, basically. Now, how is that relevant? Was that basically a law that was made and say, boom, this is how you relate to this guy? No, we grew up. Oh, I saw this person do it. Then I'm watching. So it's the same way. When in an organization, everyone below anyone is looking at the way you do things. They see you go into a meeting tomorrow and you're on your phone. Okay, maybe it's good to be on the phone. They see you go into, it's those little things. Culture is actually one of the things you contribute to in the subconscious a lot compared to any other thing. Processes you can draw on visual. Culture is a conscious effort towards little things to say, okay, as management, we want to do this way. When we go into the meetings, do we want to put our phones on the side so people see us that we do this? So it requires a lot of deliberate effort to make happen. So yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the pandemic. It's been 2 years, 2022, 2020. Lessons you've taken from the pandemic.
We must be ready to change. There is no one way to achieve any goal. We're glued to the office before now.
Yeah.
We need to do it from here. If we're not in the office, we're not productive. But then, most of us have found significant productivity from home. Basically, I particularly, working from home has been amazing for me. I could spend more time with my daughter. I could spend more time with my wife, and at the same time still focus on work. Unlike before, that time is, if I replace the time in traffic in Lagos with the time with
Exactly. You
family,
spend time in traffic.
you could almost double your income. If okay, I used to when I used to live in Egbeda, I drive to Marina every day, and I leave the office at 5, get home at 10. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, why am I doing this to myself? You spend 5 hours. So if my hourly rate is, let's say, even if I make 300,000 a month, it means my hourly rate comes down to about, if I'm not mistaken, that's about 800 naira an hour. 800 naira per hour comes down to 5 hours. That's literally 4,000 bucks. If you look at it over a month, you're almost paying your rent. So the question becomes, that time alone, if that guy spent it focusing on what matters, he would produce more for the company. So yeah.
Okay. So for you, Mr. Amida, any regrets, any things that you wish you could have done like differently?
I wish I could have been a bit more. You make how do you call it? This is a very difficult question to answer because regrets are very hard to acknowledge, more or less. But I think I didn't go through my career with a lot of humility, basically. I wish I could have learned humility earlier in life.
Okay.
To say, I learned it the hard way as I grew up, but I wish I could have been, a bit more. If you ask people that work with me early on in my career and people that work with me much later, you'll see a very different divide in the way it works. Maybe some might still have different opinions, but yeah, that's to be more humble, but at the same time, network more, create more relationships. There are a lot of relationships over the years that are basically allowed to, like, okay, you know what, maybe this
Okay.
person is here or there.
Our time is fast spent, but I
Yeah.
cannot but help ask this last question. What difference did you notice in working in Rwanda and working in Nigeria? What was the shocking should I say difference? Was there like any
That's like day and night.
Oh really?
Yeah, Nigeria
Please
is
tell-
like brash. We like to get it done now.
aggressive, yes.
A Rwandese they're not confrontational like us. So when there's conflict they back down. So you need to be able to manage their position a lot. And I always say in Rwanda, anger is your last resort a lot of times. You need to basically is at the very end of the line. Nigeria, we get angry at each other. We understand. We just feel his work. We move on. But when you get angry with the Rwandese, you might not forget it easily. It's not because it's just the way we're built. We're built differently. It's a
Yeah, I think in the entire continent, Nigerians are the
oh
most aggressive.
Nigeria. I think Nigerians are very aggressive, but a lot of other countries also have that aggression. But because we go into the English line when we communicate, people tend to, like in Rwanda, people are not quiet when they are speaking Kenya Rwanda. I think Rwandese are very loud when they're speaking Kenya Rwanda. But as loud as Nigerians are. But when you go English, because it's not the comfort zone,
Oh,
it's a bit easier to,
Just
back down.
back down.
But when you see Rwandese talk to Rwandese, you're like, okay, are they fighting? Are they not? It's really different.
Did you pick up on the language while you were there?
Well, the only one I know is that Oya in Lagos means let's go.
Oh,
In Rwanda, it means no.
oh really?
Yes. So when you say Oya, just know you're telling the person no. Meanwhile, your plan is to say let's do
Let's
it.
go. Oh.
So it's one of the areas I found very. But yeah, I learned a bit of Kenya Rwanda here and there, but not very good.
Okay, my director to me. One last question: top business priorities or top priorities leaders, and I think even everyone should look out for in 2022.
I think 2022 will be a very productive year because we've been it's like it's like a jet engine when it is boosting and it's about to launch. We've been doing this work from home / adjusting to the pandemic for about 2 years now, and it's now time for you to start seeing the benefit of that. People are now getting more and more used to the fact, and now they can produce the best of it. So I think the best things to look out for in 2020 will be huge productivity, if you ask me. I'm not a professor of econometrics that modeled this out, but I can tell you that from what I know about behavioral science and how people tend to produce, this is a time where businesses will start seeing a lot of drive towards new levels. Well, those that are willing to adapt to it anyway. So, but yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Aziz Amida.
Most welcome.
I still have like a lot of questions, but we're out of time.
It's not a problem.
I think I'll ask you behind the scene. Thank you very
No
much
problem.
for your time. And that's all we can take on 101 today. I hope you have listened and learned as much as I can. So until I see you again next week, my name is Fumino Ajikwe.
That is not good for the government to do that anyway. That is what I felt. Because in a forest, you must have a big monkey there. Understand? In a group of people, you must have one that is bad. Not everybody is bad. If you find a school that is not capable of holding children, it is to close down that school and leave others carry on their business.
My validation on the issue of Hanifa's death is actually medicine after death. Now that the Kano state government is requesting for maybe the licenses of private school, really, but to me it should have been done in a different way. This thing should have been put in place before now. And to me as a parent, I felt the pain of the mother, like watching your child go through that pain and being murdered just like that. No, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Justice should be given.
No. We cannot take justice that way, because it is the fingers that are sin that should be prosecuted. And if the other schools can meet up with criteria and conditions of their services, I think they should be allowed to exist.
I have not come across a blind person who have become sighted. Unfortunately, I've come across too many sighted people who have become blind.
I stood for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, was like, a blind individual writing like this. Even a typical human being cannot do most of what he is doing.
They are pushed aside. They look them as perpetual beggars. And it's not supposed to be. Some of us, we are learned. We don't need pity. We need opportunities. We need encouragement.
A February 2021 report by the World Health Organization says that globally, 2.2 billion people have a visual impairment. Of that number, 64 million people suffer from glaucoma, the leading cause of irreversible blindness in the world. It is projected that by the year 2030, 95.4 million people would suffer from the disease. Being a black person is a risk factor. At Ikeja Junior High School, Lagos, Nigeria, there are 55 steps from one end of the hallway to the other. There are 18 steps down the stairwell and 15 steps between classes. Cyril Ujime counted them all because he needed the figures as well as his white cane to find his way around work.
It's more than the cost price.
Cyril is a 48-year-old visually impaired mathematician. He teaches math here to students with and without hearing disabilities in junior secondary classes 1 to 3. This situation presents a peculiar communication challenge.
Imagine they will do sign language, I cannot see what they are signing. I will talk, they cannot hear what I'm saying. So if they want to talk, I cannot even hear them. They will make noise with it. And it has really been a very difficult situation. How are you today? Fine. I had to learn a little bit of sign language, and that gladdened their heart. They love seeing me making that effort to communicate with them. Unfortunately, they feel, because I cannot see them back, they feel saddened about it, that I'm not seeing them sign back to me, communicating with me in their own way.
Here's where 30-year-old Tawalkat Babatunde comes in.
Take note, it's over the cost price, not the selling price.
She's a sign language specialist at the school. She works with Cyril to coordinate and communicate math lessons to the class.
I'll make sure the class is being arranged. Okay, keep quiet, watch what he's saying, explain. When he's explaining, I'll demonstrate. You do give them classwork and homework. I'll mark it, distribute it to the students. Honestly, the first day we worked together, I stood at just for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, was like, a blind individual writing like this. Even a typical human being cannot do most of what he is doing. So I was amazed.
Cyril Ojeme is a 1996 graduate of Pure and Applied Mathematics from the University of Ilori, Kwara State. He's also an award-winning math and further math teacher with experience spanning 11 different schools in 5 states across Nigeria since 1999. Cyril recalls a childhood experience that motivated him to take up teaching as a career.
I used to have a math teacher. He would just put some problems on the board and I would just be smiling. We would not be able to solve it. So in my mind, I said, I want to be a teacher whereby I would make math to look simpler than what this man is doing.
That resolve, made in the early 80s, still nudges him to demystify math for children today. However, in 2012, Cyril was diagnosed with glaucoma. This almost put paid to his life ambition of teaching math.
When I first of all found out 2012, it was like a shock to me. Because as a then, in my family, the extended family, we only know for maybe eye issues such as myopia or long distance issue. Then maybe at was cataract.
Going through a daily struggle because of traffic. Abuja is a bit quiet and you just peaceful and.
But even at that, you find that a lot of people are pretty upset. Things are not going very well. People are very frustrated, and you can feel the frustration at every point in time.
In Abuja.
Yes.
No wonder the opposition Labour Party had the highest votes in that city. I was listening to the radio on my way to work this morning, and someone sent a message to one of the stations, which I monitored, saying that the fuel scarcity is biting hardest in FCT.
And that's very correct.
This is the center of government. This is the seat of government, and that is where you have the most, the impact of incompetence of government the most. It's, or let me say failure of government agencies, the most. I mean, I remember a video someone filmed, a user-generated video, social media user, filmed of black market petrol sellers with their jerry cans selling just opposite NNPC towers last year. That was just an irony, a paradox of sorts. All right, we'll start our look at the top trending stories of the day with what happened at the Ajegunle Akere Motor Spare Parts Market in Olodiapapa or Ajegunle Apapa, Lagos. You can see the fire service operatives or officials doing a yeoman's job trying to put out the fire. But I think it was too little too late, because the fire, which started at about 3 a.m., had done a lot of damage and one life had already been lost. The police in Lagos State, through the CP, says that they have started an investigation into suspected arson at this fire incident at Akere Motor Spare Parts Market, Tolu, Olodiapapa, Lagos. That is what they're saying. They started that investigation yesterday morning. The CP, we told, had ordered that investigation. It came in a statement through the spokesman of the police, or the police public relations officer in Lagos State, Benjamin Hundeyi, who said that though the fire was put out around 3 a.m. 65-year-old security guard lost his life in the incident. This was already public information, but police had to officially confirm this fire incident. It's a spare parts market in the Ajegunle Apapa axis of Lagos State. And we saw the videos on social media, a lot of spare parts burned beyond recognition, and traders, those who have shops and have materials they sell there, lamenting loss of their products and items worth billions. The traders at the market, said they lost goods worth millions of naira, rather, and that some group of gunmen came there at about 2:30 a.m. And set the market ablaze. The gunshots were fired, and security guard, 65-year-old security guard, lost his life. To Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service issued a statement before the police statement. This was earlier on Wednesday, and they said the deceased male adult had a gunshot injury, and of course this now therefore fueled the speculation that this was a deliberate attack. The police have also given a hint that this may have been a deliberate attack by saying they're investigating arson. So that's that. But they're asking for information. They're calling on the public to exercise restraint while the police conducts its investigation.
And Kofi, with the issue of fire, for every other time we talk about fire incidents in Lagos, whether in Lagos or outside of Lagos, the conversation seemed to be the same. The thoughts will never change as to we being very proactive, ensuring that we avoid it. Now, in most cases, there are issues of arson where you have someone who's responsible for all of that. But is it not possible to have a system where we can actually ensure that those who are involved in all of this are being prosecuted, they are arrested? We have to know that. Then we can't say that, and the entire period passes on and then we just move on like nothing happened, and then those who should do the needful are not able to do that. The police should be able to apprehend those who are behind all of this. So that's one of it. But on the other hand, we say that if fire would happen, such as an accident, is it also not important that we educate ourselves? I mean, we do the needful. The fire service does not just exist to take out the fire or fight fire, as it would be said in other climes, firefighters.
Help rescue cats, let me say. Okay. Rescue cats from trees, stranded cats, and all of that.
It goes beyond that. It's also expected that there's the part of education, educating the people, informing them, behaviors and action and practices that we can take, that people can practice, people in these marketplaces, what people need to know, and also having a fire station in the market. Nothing stops that. I mean, it's a very sensitive market, a market where you sell spare parts. That's a lot for a country that is not big on, the production of our vehicles. I mean, if you're talking about spare parts of automobile, that's a lot. So one would think that we'll be very proactive. Why don't we have the relevant security or have the necessary? So let's even say it's an arson and we're not able to apprehend or arrest whoever is behind it. But can't we even have a fire station in this market closest to it so we can quell the fire at the shortest notice or whenever it happens? That's on the one hand. But also, it's the issue of security. And I feel like this continues every other time because people have not been punished. We feel to act helpless. We don't know. We don't want to investigate. It reminds me of a time where, robbers attacked my house. And then I thought that when the police came to the robbery scene, we're going to be having tapes mark the whole place, just like barricades. They'll come